Welcome to the Straight Red Card, segment 3. And thanks for sticking around. We're going to, it's not to beat a dead horse or anything, but we did just have a couple comments from people about Gregg and the way he operated, at least early on. And I think he's true. Why don't we just do the Williamson quote and just get it out of the way, Brett? Let's just.
Well, I mean, it's the basis.
Yeah.
For everything. So.
Yep.
Eryk
Williamson came out with and this is what he said about Gregg's complicated system. Go, Eryk.
I mean, there's a lot of pressing cues that's different from the way we play here that Gregg wants to play there, but also like on the ball, it's just kind of adding that flexibility of getting the ball in front of a back line behind the second line of defense or, little things like that. That's makes it super tough to play.
Can you pause that right there?
It's not easy.
Yeah.
Isn't getting the ball as an offensive or as a center midfielder beyond the first line of defense, isn't that normal? That seems like a normal thing.
Oh, there are a number of times where Adams or Musa or even McKinney to an extent have been behind our center back there.
They've been behind the left back and right back. But I don't think they've been behind the center backs. Adams has been on occasion. I don't get this one. I mean, that should not be complicated, but he's about to tell us it is. You want to back that up a little bit and replay that? Just a little. There we go.
It's not easy in the first 3 camps I've been with Gregg. Like I've had a terrible experience. Trying to learn it. I didn't do the best job, and it's because it's so difficult. There's so many different cues that you have to know. Timing is everything in that system, and it's just kind of getting reps and getting used to just how Gregg wants to play is very tough. And it's not one cue where I can say, hey, when this happens, you do this. It's reacting off the other team as well. So it's very complex, and I think it's been so successful because of how complex it is as well.
Well, I'm calling bullshit on the end of that one.
All right, so a couple things real quick.
It hasn't been successful, right? I mean, it's on some games, and that's been it. So whenever anybody plays a low block on us, it's not been successful. It's been the opposite of that. So the cues thing is interesting, right? So we're going to throw the quote up here. The cues thing is interesting because, all right, so when I played, and I'm sure this happened to you too, the manager would throw the ball. I mean, we'd be doing like an 11-on-11 scrimmage. And he'd throw a ball to a certain player in a certain situation, and he'd say, where does everybody need to be? If this player has the ball right here. And he'd give us like 5 seconds to figure it out, and we'd have to move there. And so there was that. But it wasn't like this cue system. I mean, he was just trying to get us to understand the natural flow and where we should be when a player has the ball in a certain situation, right? It wasn't like this is the only thing that can happen, but generally this is where you need to be, But it sounds like this is like he's talking about cues, but not only when they're have the ball, but when they're also playing defense.
So Jake from FIFA America has a really good video as far as just describing how Berhalter's system is run and the professional teams that play that same style. Like he mentioned Leicester, and I think even like Man City or something like that. But and he talks about the complexity behind that style of play and how the reason why a lot of teams don't do it is because it takes a lot of effort and it's a very specific style of play. I think what Eryk is saying here is that there's so many cues, not only just looking at your own players and where you need to be in comparison to them, but you also, if the opposition center midfield moves over here, then you've got to do this. And there's a lot of X's and O's, apparently. I don't know.
It doesn't sound like a very natural way to play soccer. I mean,
that's why he said it's complex.
It's constipating is what it is. Like if all I was thinking about when I was playing was, Oh shit. Oh shit, I got to get over there now. Oh shit, I got to get over there now. Oh shit, I need to get over here now based on this complex set of cues. That would drive me nuts as a player. Absolutely drive me insane. I want to be thinking about the game. I want to play it naturally. And if you don't like the way I play it naturally, I mean, you give me a basic framework and let me play naturally. Don't give me all these fucking cues. And by the way, it's a national team. You don't have a whole lot of time to get this complex shit into the system. That's why everybody looks constipated out there.
So we've also talked about over the windows this past year, how everybody just looks not confused being out on the field, but almost like they're waiting for what something happens. Like it's like they gotta think too much as far as where they gotta be rather than just playing with some level of fluidity.
Yeah.
And the games where we do play with some fluidity, and not necessarily just verticality, but some fluidity. I'm making up my own Greggisms. But I mean, when we do play like that, we play well, and some of that falls on the players, and I think some of it falls outside of the system. Sometimes the system works. The high press that he plays can work, and but I just feel like sometimes the players are too concerned where they need to be on the field at all times.
Yes, exactly. And some of it falls on the opponent, right? We play better against Mexico because they're not going to play a low block. That's just not something they might. In this next game, I don't know. I mean, that would befuddle the fuck out of Gregg because, I mean, it's just the same guy who came in saying El Salvador is going to play a low block in his interview with the Warshaw, right? He's like, oh, yeah, El Salvador, they're going to be compact and low. Wrong. And when you're wrong, you need to have a plan B. And I can't even remember a manager. I mean, I'm sure there are some other ones who are so single fucking minded they can only play one fucking formation. To me, that's baffling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, learning the system clearly takes up all the practice time. I mean, you can only show so many PowerPoints and expect the players to soak it in. But the problem is, and we talked about it just in this episode right now, we've talked about how we have such limited time with the players. Gregg doesn't have it's not like he's playing with the club where you have every day of the week with these players working on that system, hammering it out, getting it to work. He's got 6 days a month, and of those 6 days, 3 of those days have games. The other three days are travel and recovery. So, I mean, as far as trying to break out a system, I mean, what you need to do as a national team managers, you got to keep it simple. So that way, when you bring in new players, it's not just this huge learning curve. And I think maybe this kind of explains why we see players who have been in the system for a while. You know, we see the Cannons and we see the Moores, we see Vines early on, at least Bello over somebody like Scally, who was called in late, got no time whatsoever and not called since. So they're not familiar with the system because they haven't had the opportunity to spend 3 camps, like Williamson was saying.
Well,
trying to figure it out.
Look at this quote. You got the word terrible. You got the word difficult. You got the word tough. This is not a great quote. I mean, especially if you remove the last sentence, this is not good. And I think it was Lawless who confronted Gregg about this in an interview a long time ago and said, don't you think you're going to have to make some compromises? Sounds like he didn't make them yet.
No.
When Williamson was there. And that brings something to mind. Is all of this Klinsman's fault in the end because he was the opposite of Gregg? He's like, yeah, here's the formation we're playing. Go get them, guys. Rah, rah. I mean,
there's got to be like a happy medium there somewhere.
There is.
We're doing the high press. Here are your positions. You guys know how to play the game. You know, go about it.
Exactly. I mean,
we defend in numbers. We attack in numbers. You know, whatever.
Reading this quote hurt. I mean, it hurt to read it because he's really kind of like criticizing in a way, but he doesn't know it. I mean, he's got to know it. And then we've all heard from the guys behind the scenes. And Pete has too. And so there are actual players on the national team who are talking to people behind the scenes. Just saying that, folks. and telling them, yeah, this shit's kind of fucked up. It's like so predictable. That's why it's so easy to defend. If it's going to be that predictable, it's going to be easy to defend. If it's going to be that unnatural, it's going to cause the players to be constipated. So we need to get out of that. I want to see some free-flowing play. I want to see guys be have the opportunity to feel like they can be creative. Now, we've seen a little of that here and there, but it's not enough for a team that is as talented as this team is. The amount of talent. When I watch Aronson play for Salzburg, I'm like, damn, that they cut that kid loose. He does what he wants, and he knows exactly what to do. When I watch Aronson sometimes for the U.S. men's national team, especially when he's jammed back in that midfield spot, I think, man, he seems like he's got a big stick up his ass. And that's sad when you have that kind of talent and you can't translate that on the field. Again, people are going to say we're fucking Berhalter haters. It's not about that. We just deserve a better product, folks. And if Gregg can figure it out, we'll support him. If he can't figure it out, eventually he's got to go. He's got to go.
Well, yeah, we've already talked about that. I did want to give a shout out to Justin Moran for posting the quote here.
Yeah, which I can't read.
It was I mean, it was this earlier. So
oh, okay.
We were staring at it for 10 minutes.
Okay.
But he wrote the transcript for it and put the emphasis on it where he highlighted stuff.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And this all comes from the Scuffed Podcast. They interviewed Eryk Williamson.
Yeah.
So go give that a listen to if you want the full context. Scuffed Podcast actually posted that clip that we just watched earlier. So props to them. It was a great find, great quote.
Yeah, everybody's commenting on it today. Everybody's talking about it. And some people are saying things like, well, Berhalter's system's really simple. What? So Williamson's a moron? Dude plays on a professional soccer team. He's not a moron. It's not that it's simple. It's that it's overly complicated and predictable. That's the problem. It's one thing if you put together a really complex system that really does fake the other fucking team out. It's another thing when the other teams watch so much footage of us, they know exactly what we're going to do, exactly how we're going to operate outside of like a few things we might have tried. We've seen some weird shit. Like we've mentioned the midfielders covering for the left back and the right back. We've mentioned trying 3 in the back with Tyler Adams as the right back. Yeah. So when he does experiment, it doesn't work.
Well, he goes off the reservation. The Honduras game. What we played with, we played Tyler Adams as a right back. We threw in Acosta and Sands as dual sixes, and it was just like, where the hell did this come from? I mean, you can't when you're experimenting with players at certain spots, you don't want to just do mass exodus.
That was the Honduran game where we were like, yeah, let's just let's put on a whole different new show here. Let's just put in 7 new players and fiddly fuck around and see what happens here. And that doesn't work. So I think you had I just want to bring up a couple fun tweets. Okay.
So Jared Dean here, he kind of gets half of the point that we make. Where we talk about the Berhalter system being being too predictable, but we're not saying that it's a simple system. We've never said that. In fact, we've talked the exact opposite. And
it's robotic. Robotic.
It's predictable because if you watch one game, you know exactly what's going to happen. But the process of getting it to moving it around, and being in those positions, that's where the complexity comes from. But he talks about how it's been heavily implied that our offense is predictable and all we do is move the ball outside and attempt to cross the ball in. To me, that doesn't sound complicated in his opinion, which, don't get me wrong, he's not wrong there. That isn't complicated.
No, it doesn't sound complicated, but the way it works on the way there, and especially on the so when something's predictable, that doesn't mean it's not complicated. The chip in my computer, my laptop, is extremely complicated, and I would not be able to replicate it on my own. There's no way. But it's predictable. I know when I turn my computer on, I can get the internet. I can watch YouTube. I can do this show. So predictable does not necessarily mean simple. Something can be extremely complex and still
absolutely
be complicated.
And Derek, I think I had pretty much a similar response on here to it. My response was, in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, we all knew he was making breakfast in the intro, but that didn't make the process any less complicated.
Right.
But I mean, we may be dating ourselves here as far as talking about Pee-wee's Big Adventure, man. So I only got one like for that, and I think that's because a good chunk of the people on Twitter probably never watched it.
Probably don't even know who Pee-wee fucking Herman is.
I tried to find a GIF that had his like whole breakfast set up, but this is the closest thing I could find for him.
Yeah, that might have helped if you could get him like that whole scene in there. But so again, just to reemphasize that, if something is complicated, let's say an M1 Abrams tank is really a complicated tank, like all the parts that go into it, all the computers, but it's fairly predictable. It's a solid thing. It works and it's predictable. Now, in this case, however, let's say the U.S. Army strategy with the M1 tanks was just to not fire and charge into the enemy. This is a metaphor, of course, without shooting. Well, then they would get their asses kicked. So you got to fire at some point. You can't charge into the enemy tanks. This is not what I'm saying is that, yes, Gregg's system is complicated for the players. You can see it when they play. They are obviously trying to play their roles, their very specific roles. Now, I will say this. Gregg has tried to simplify it a little more. I mean, he said it. He said he's trying to simplify it a little more. So let's see that really happen, because I still see constipated play at this point, and it needs to unjar itself.
Yep. And going with that, the complicated aspect of the system, this is just another one that stood out to me. And again, nothing against the people we're highlighting here, just the type of comments that we see, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, any other social media.
Right.
And consistently, we have to explain ourselves, our reasonings for saying what we say. And sometimes it can come off a little snide and a little snarky. But,
of course it does.
But yeah, nothing against people asking questions. I'm all for it. But yeah. So J-Dub here, he goes, Yunus Musa, 17-year-old can learn this system, but Eryk can't. Didn't he go to college?
Ooh.
The guy goes, what does college have to do with anything? And then J-Dub goes, he should know how to study. He goes, it's not about studying. It's a completely different kind of intelligence required. And he said, you've got to be kidding me. And then, once again, my response. Response was, I can read a book on how to replace an engine, but when it comes time to actually replace the engine, understanding how to do something and being able to do something are not the same. Club level, sure. International level, there just simply isn't enough time, and we can't be flexible with newcomers. Again, which is why I think we're never going to see somebody brand new. We talked about like who's going to replace McKinney. Well, it's going to be some of the same people who've been in the system already. You know?
So I worked at a company where we had 3 different CRMs. 3. And instead of them figuring out a way to bundle the CRMs together, this is a customer relationship management system. For people who don't know what a CRM is, they just had us have these 3 different systems for the 3 different events we held. Like each one had its own CRM. And then they wanted us to figure out on our own how to, market all 3 different things, but cross-market them too for all the events. So we get all of them involved in all 3 events. I'm like, dudes, you know how complicated that shit is? You overcomplicated this. It stifled me as a worker. And I think that's how the guys feel out there. I feel like they're forced to do things they wouldn't necessarily naturally do on their club teams. So, and when you put them in that situation, it makes it tough.
Again, that's pretty much what Eryk said. He goes,
Yes.
Greg's having us do stuff that I just simply don't do with the club at the club level. So
Don't overcomplicate it.
It is what it is, and I think that's the issue.
Yeah.
But
Jesse Marsch
with some I guess let's end it with some good news here. Jesse Marsch is being interviewed by the CBS crew.
Yeah.
And let's listen to it and then we'll talk about it, I guess.
Okay. This is news.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Am I going to get this pleasure a lot more next season because you're coming to Leeds, aren't you?
Carragher's accent kills me.
You've been reading the newspapers and Twitter too much, Jake.
Can you give us an exclusive?
Listen, I'm enjoying being unemployed. Let's just say that. I'm enjoying a little bit of free time now.
Thanks, Jesse. See you next season.
Okay, so
what the fuck was that?
So he asked if Marsch was going to be at Leeds, and he basically said, "I'm enjoying my free time being unemployed right now." So this begs the question: is he enjoying his free time being unemployed because maybe he's already been in conversation with USSF for what's going to happen after January?
No,
I
don't think so.
You just don't think he's? You don't think? Well, I don't know.
What? So let me just get this straight. Leeds are firing Bielsa.
No, his contract is expiring, and hasn't had any conversations as far as re-signing back up with them. I guess I don't know.
Huh.
Right? It's not that he's getting fired. It's just his contract is set to expire in the summer.
Well,
so there's a rumor that they're interested in Marsch, which I also brought up jokingly said. Coincidentally, Leeds are also very interested in Aronson.
Yeah, well, Bielsa was interested in Aronson specifically. So, and isn't the team owned by? I don't know who they're owned by. Let me see. Owner is Asser. It's an Italian businessman, and 49ers Enterprises, okay. And the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers. So they've got American interests there as well. That's becoming so common these days, it doesn't even surprise me when I look up a club and I have no idea who their ownership is, and half of it is American. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't get rid of the current manager. I mean, he's been really good for them. So he's having a rough season right now. He'll work it out. They're not going to get relegated. I don't think Leeds is really going to get relegated.
And again, I don't know if the question is necessarily that Leeds wants to get rid of him. I just think that they're taking the precaution, the fact that there's absolutely no conversation as far as whether or not he's going to resign. Again, I'm going off my memory. I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that was the issue.
All I'm going to say to Jesse Marsch is if he goes to the EPL, be ready to be ridiculed when you don't use the word pitch. Instead, you use the word the field or, shit like that. Like I'm the coach. No, you're a manager, dickhead. Figure that out. Because that's all the shit that Bob Bradley was ridiculed for. Like when he just didn't use the same terminology in England. I mean, it was all in the papers. He
needs to go in there and say, we're here to play some good soccer.
You can't say soccer either. That's a bad
I'm
one.
Speaking English, guys. Come on.
Yeah. So, and he was ridiculed right from the start. It was like when Bob was hired, he talked about it today in an interview he did with, I'm not sure who the
Hercules and Sebastian.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, I mean, he's like, some of that shit happens, but it's not the people that who are interviewing you. It's always those dickheads that never ask a question during the press conference that write the bad articles on you. So yeah, there's a little bit of that Jesse Marsch would have to. I would recommend he go back to Germany and find a German club to manage. Frankly, or Austria. I mean, I don't know. He'd go to like maybe Rapid Wien or something like that. But England. I don't know about England. They don't seem very open to Americans. I mean, everybody's a fucking Ted Lasso as soon as they go over there. I mean, just look at how much Armas has been criticized as an assistant.
Yeah.
For Man United. It only gets worse once you're under the microscope in England. I mean, that goes for every manager there. I get it. So every manager kind of gets kicked in the balls when they go there. But
well, I mean, Armis's press is basically just talking about how people referred to him as Ted Lasso at Man U, kind of like talking down to him. But it was nothing about him as the assistant coach per se, because I mean he's implementing the game plan. That should all fall on the head coach.
Yeah, I mean,
how often are other assistant managers ridiculed in press? As far I don't know. I'm asking.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did say his workouts were archaic, like from the 80s or 90s or something like that. They got kind of specific in their criticism of Armis. It's very odd because if the manager doesn't want him to run archaic shit, then he won't. So maybe the manager does want, or maybe the manager is saying, yeah, I want to work. Let's get them to play a high press. Let's bring Red Bull ball to Man United. And, Ronaldo's like, I don't want to run that much. What are you kidding? I'm not going to press all fucking game long. That's ridiculous. And they're just frustrated. But is there a bias? I'm sure there is. We're not beyond that yet, folks. We got a long ways to go. We're taking strides in Germany. Marsch got the coach. Materazzo's still there for now. Probably going to lose his job before the end of the season. But if things continue the way they are, you got Joe Enochs in Germany and the 3 Bundesliga, but he's managed a 2 Bundesliga team too. So I think it's just a lot less difficult in Germany. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why the English are so fucking sensitive about protecting their fucking territory in this game. I mean, they haven't won a World Cup since the 60s. So maybe they need to get over themselves a little. And maybe we don't have all the answers. But I think Bob Bradley should have got a lot bigger, longer chance than he did while he was there. I thought he got shafted big time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, I agree. Right. We talked about that too before.
Do we have anything else? Thank God. That was supposed to be 15 minutes.
Yeah, we're only 12 minutes past.
All right. Until the next time on the Straight Red Card. Keep doing what you're doing. It's working. Mm-hmm. It's a slow build. I mean, it was a fast build to 1,000, and then it's been kind of a slow build since then, but it's working. Keep spreading the word, share it, keep liking, keep subscribing, and we'll be back on Thursday. We got Max line?
We do have Max.
All right, even though we called you a butt.
That was fun.
No, I mean, he didn't really call Brett a butt. He just said, yeah, sure, that'll work. And then, what was it, butt?
Yeah. I sat there for like 10, 15 minutes. Like, is he going to respond to this?
Because it was B-U-T butt, not B-U-T-T butt. I was thinking, God, he's already going in the name calling business. Jesus, we're ready for this one.
It's like, did my wife take over your Twitter handle for a second there, you butt?
All right.
No, my wife says worse things than that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Lovingly, though, guys. Lovingly.
Yeah, I'm sure it is lovingly. All right. Until the next time on Straight Red Card, we will see you, and we'll be back on Thursday.